Hey, hey. Gonna wait for some people to roll in still. Already prettied up the spreadsheet. Can't wait time with that. Unfortunately. I'm gonna paste this to a couple of discords. What is going on, Six Intern? Dude, I read some of your write up on the pirate. I didn't have a ton of time, so I haven't finished it. But I'm enjoying it so far. And I don't understand what you and Maddie are talking about. Parlay is so good. So, in a one-to-one scenario, it's nothing but risk, right? Yeah, I mean the damage could be bonkers, um, but for all intents and purposes, you're going to be using this on a pirate, or you're gonna have a subclass in which you utilized luck, right? This is one of those abilities that you pick if you have good luck, or high luck, and your target, because this is a range of three, your target is always going to be against somebody who has super bad luck. I'm talking like a knight, right? Because this is essentially a reduction of damage reduction, right? Because it just increases the damage dealt. So what you're doing is you're taking away some of that damage reduction, and you can hit the knight. It's got no DOD, right? So it doesn't miss. And then on top of that, after all is said and done, I mean, you've got like a 90 to 95% chance of having this be successful if you're, you know, due to luck diff. But if you throw this on anything else, there's zero DOD, you still deal damage at the end of it as well. Like this is just pure goodness. Is there a chance that it can go bad? Yeah, but got some setup, perfectly fine. Right. Yeah, it's not really utilizing your good luck, it's utilizing their bad luck. Always talking pirate. Sticks intern brought up parlay with Maddie, and Maddie also didn't like parlay. So I just gotta talk up its goodness. You know what I'm saying? Also, what's good? I'm throwing the link around real quick in different chats. Gotta throw it up in discussion. I'll throw it into hero discussion because I love discussing heroes. I'll throw it in general chat. And of course, our DGen boys. Oh yeah, same. Yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean was like that's all I could think of was like Luck of the Sea is all Jack Sparrow stuff. Oh yeah, no, like this completely opens up like for a thief pirate, this is the best thing you could possibly get because I feel thieves are going to be single target DPS slash heavy duty ability. So like having this on a thief is just good because you're still doing damage no matter what. You're gonna have a high luck stat. And I don't know what this wisdom mod's doing here, but if it's on a pirate, it's gotta be a gigantic wisdom mod, so if you've got this on like a priest or something like that, it's probably going to hit real hard. We will be discussing the new and improved, and I did read through the skills this time. It is improved. Berserker tree. Very specific cases. This stream's probably going to be a really short one, specifically because like I'd say 85 to 90% of the stuff is pretty much the same. Um, but like I said, we'll get this in here. Keep going here. wait for more people to pop in before we get started. I'm still passing around the links. I love that with a whiz you're considered. Yeah, right. It's just good. Like parlay, there's nothing wrong with parlay. I know Maddie's definitely he's in the consistency king's realm, right? He wants everything to just happen the way he wants it to happen, which is fine and dandy. Consistency is king. I'll never ever ever back down from that hill, but like chance is fun. What's up, worm? Glad to see you. Yeah, 3 hours minimum. No way. I'm not. There's no way this is gonna take 3 hours. He wants consistency. He's gonna hate the Berserker, right? Yeah, no, I don't see Maddie playing a Berserker unless we can get like the passives. Like the cool thing about Berserker is they just have a ton of passive abilities, right? Yeah, they got a ton of damage abilities, but I want to believe they've got the most passives out of every. And I think that includes knights as well. I have the same amount as knights. Nope, knights definitely take it in passives. Knights are very passive. And if anyone's interested in the old Berserker information, I made a new sheet over here, outdated, in the sections for outdated data that is patched or updated and is no longer relevant. Goodbye, previous Berserker. Hello, hello, better one. I feel like you also have to look at the alternatives. So in 5 point skill, you have super dodgy and survive. You have execute, or you have a bigger damage chance for even more. Yeah. No, the real strategy, like the pre-strategy building, is all gonna be how can you manage your costs, right? Yeah, no, seriously, with parlay, very specifically, it's a 5 cost, um, which I mean, if you're spending the most you could possibly spend, in the shortest amount of skills, you're taking a 5 cost and you're taking a 10 plus, or you're taking a 10, right? Which I mean, all good options, all for building strategy, but like you could also choose a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 cost in a subclass, which is what like gets me really excited because I can have a pirate, right? I can have a pirate knight, for instance, and just go like, okay, I want passive, I want a passive, and then I pick whatever on my third, but then I want another passive. Do you know what I mean? Like I just have like nothing but passive buffs forever. And I mean it's just a lot of goodness. Yeah, right. You need your own allies to have massive evasion. But I mean, eh, if it's main, you'll have to take 5 regardless. If it's sub, yeah, it's true. You do have to take a 5 regardless if it's your main, and you do have more options with this. Assuming it's main, you have to pick one of the fives, so parlay is relative to the other two options. You're not wrong. So with like walk the plank, I mean the cool part about the 5 costs, and I did consider the cost when rating these, is like each one of them are really good, right? And not to like beat a dead horse about the pirate or anything like that, and derail myself too hard. Um, you're like pretty much sticking to the same thing if you pick something from the very beginning, right? You got your dex, you got your strength, you got your luck. And here you got dex based move that's got some luck attached to it. Then you've got a strength based move that's got some dex, and then you've got a luck based move that's got some wisdom, which is a little funky, but like I like it. But each one of them in their own right are fantastic. And they don't require combos. So like it doesn't require an even heavier investment. Yeah, no. Access to the subclass full basic kit is it's just good, right? So even on a pirate, like okay, I could just get plus dex forever, and then I can get what a range of 2 move on anybody I want, and then I can get a range of 3 move on anybody I want, and another range of 3 move on anybody I want, and then I can get parlay. And it's just like you turn yourself into a DPS utility king. But just to just to bring it on back home here, we do got to discuss the Berserker today. And there's not a whole ton to discuss. There has been some changes. There have been improvements. Yes, it is Zerker time, or how Workhorse's Twitter poll almost got right. Swirly swirls, or zoomy zoom swirly slashy time, which I don't know if you guys know this, but it's a good time. So we'll go ahead and kick it off. We're going to go through these really quick because there's been no change to the one costs whatsoever. Well, that's, I think, wrong, actually. There is some differences. We'll go through them real quick. So the first one, we got Berserker Mushroom. Gain. You know what? I'm just now remembering. The Berserker came out as a tease, and I hadn't got my stream up yet. So this is actually my first run through the Berserker with everybody here. So I guess I will take my time. This might end up turning into a 3-hour stream minimum, like Bolin's calling, regardless. Yeah, 5 hours minimum, at least. Per usual, I'll go ahead and copy the link, post it in chat here, and you guys can follow along with me if you so choose. But other than that, let's get started. We got Berserker Mushroom, our first up in the bear tree. We've got gain X% basic attack damage, where X equals the percent of missing HP. I mean, it's probably going to be a 1-to-1 ratio. Or it's either going to be a 1-to-1 ratio, or it's probably going to be 0.5. So half of whatever your percentage of missing HP is probably going to be what the bonus is here. It's fantastic. I mean, it gets better and better the longer the fight goes on. The only, hilariously enough, the only counter to this is getting healed. So this is a constant theme with the Berserker, is you're playing risky, you're playing lower health than probably anyone else in the game, definitely so far. But it's all high risk, high reward. You can get taken out in a moment's notice, but you got a lot of stuff to back yourself up. I think this is a really good passive ability. I rated it very low on my first go through. As you can see, there's a lot of A's, there's a lot of B's, there's even a C in there's 2 S ranks, right, in the 1 to 5 costs here in the basics, whereas like almost everybody else in their basics have had like a slew of S's, like 1A, you know what I'm saying? I think the priest had a B somewhere. Yeah, that was like the lowest rated ability by far. But Berserker, I think I was a bit harsh on because it was the very first one I was rating, and I was just being cynical, critical, which I probably could use more of, but I get really hyped about this stuff. So I'm gonna give this what I actually believe it's worth, and it's an S rank. Because the more you need to utilize this, the better it gets, right? It's for playing catch up, number one, first and foremost. If I've got lower health, that's bad. But also, if I've got lower health, I might be able to pull off this crazy one shot, right? This also pairs with a lot, like almost everything in the Berserker's kit, that either deals self damage or later down in the tree, sets heroes' HP to 1. So that's an immediate crazy huge buff, like just right there. This also pairs extremely well with like Giant Slayer, where if you have lower health than your target, you deal more damage. Or in the case of like Clutch or even Double Clutch, which I just picked up on the tavern not too long ago. There's a lot of ways to activate this passive, and you're doing better if you don't activate this, right? It's only as good as you absolutely need it to be, and your opponent is going to force you into using it. So because you literally have to do nothing for it, like you just play the game and it's just a passive extra damage, right? It's just good. It's good all the time, no matter what, especially on a cross class. Cross class play with this one is going to be really, really, really good. This is going to be really good on any tank unit as well. So a knight with this might actually deal some substantial damage as well. But yeah, I give it an S. It's probably, like I said, it's going to be 0.5. So if you're at 1 HP, congratulations, you've got almost 50% increased basic attack damage, which goes into literally everything. When you see these X times basics, that is taking into consideration the basic attack damage value. Hey, what's up, Prime Time? Glad to see you, man. February 27th? Hell yeah, man. Looking forward to it. Oh, that's right. We did make Twitch affiliate. I'm not sure if there's even a subscribe button down there, but it is possible. I think. Maybe. Who knows? I don't really care. I'm not in it for the money. You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm sure this is going to be everyone's favorite part. And this is the part where I absolutely mangle these names. Ulfeonar mushroom. Yeah, that's it. That's the pronunciation. And if anyone from ancient Scandinavia comes up to me and corrects them, I will vehemently tell them that they're wrong. But we got our 1-cost wolf. For each instance this hero deals damage, gain an X% increase in basic attack damage. This amount stacks up to a maximum of X%. This is fantastic. This is really good for backline units. This is really good for ramping up damage over time. This guarantees you that you're going to be dealing more damage towards the end of the game than you were in the very beginning of the game. Like kind of your slow burn. I believe we didn't know. We knew it stacked before, but we didn't know if there was a max cap. So the addition here is the amount stacks up to a maximum of X%, of which we don't know. It could be 30, it could be 50. I mean, it could be 20. It is just a 1-cost. But all in all, this is just good. This is every DPS's dream. Not sure if this is going to be good for casters. I know increased basic attack damage isn't really conducive to basic spell damage. I'm not sure if they're calculated synonymously. I don't know. Hold on, I know you're there, but I don't know if Workhorse is there to clarify this. If it says increases basic attack damage, does that also increase basic spell for spellcasters? If so, that's super cool. But for right now, I'm going to be rating this as an S. It's just good. It's better than good, right? So if you're on a DPS unit, even if you're on a non-DPS unit, you're cross-classed into this with a tank or even a healer, right? You can. Oh, okay, yeah. All right, confirmation from Workhorse. All right, cool. So increased basic attack is the same thing, or adds to basic spell. So actually, this is even better. This is SS. Oh geez. maybe our Berserker mushroom also gains rating off of this as well. I didn't even think about that. A lower HP priest healing for more based off spell. Very interesting. So the lower health they get, the more they can heal for. Ooh. These might end up turning out to be extremely good. All right, Workhorse. Thanks for the intervention there. I was about to make completely wrong assumptions. All right, so I'm going back. This gets a double S. Like, this is fantastic. This works for literally everybody in the game, as does this. Um, it's just good. They're all ramping passives. The Berserker mushroom you can only really control. Like you can control, but it's based off of your opponent or slash how much self damage you can actually cause on yourself. Or I guess if you have other berserkers in your party and deal damage to yourself that way, that's also doable. Of which I will go ahead and say right up front, a team of berserkers is badass. I'll tell you why later on. Um, but yeah, this is some pretty heavy rating right off the bat, only because of the new revelation that increasing basic attack damage increases basic spell as well, which we can see heal target out for the priest, heal target ally for X spell, and then their mods, right? Everything is based off X spell. Everything is based off X spell, which basic attack is increasing. So this is absolutely fantastic. Just moving on real quick because these are all pretty similar. Yofer mushroom for boar. For each instance this hero takes damage, gain X% basic attack damage or spell. This amount stacks up to a maximum of X%. Again, this is fantastic. That's another double S. I I rated this. I was pretty critical in the very beginning, when the initial drop for the Berserker came out, but I truly believe, like, I've had revelations since from what we've seen in other classes. This is fantastic from pure damage and honestly pure support, right? So what did we have in Seer that was times spell, right? Target is healed, deal damage, right? So healing and damage all goes off of this. So these three, increasing basic attack damage, also increasing basic spell, means that this is an increase for not only damage but also healing. This makes this a perfect choice for almost every single character in the game, probably outside of like your super tanky buff debuff roles, because they don't really need to utilize that as much. um it's it's not even hard to say, like, this is just good. This is just good for everybody, because even if you're not really taking advantage of the, okay, the debuff isn't going to last longer because I've got more basic damage. You've got more basic damage, you're going to be hitting harder, right? uh Eric's Yofer and Berserker look the same to me. They do. Where is they're similar, right? So this has a max of this will likely have a higher final percentage, where Yofer stacks up to a maximum percentage. Um this is most likely going to be a little bit lower because you can acquire this over time, and this one and it'll just stack and stay there forever. This one, however, is variable, right? Berserker mushroom is a variable, um I guess, buff, which is kind of weird to say, but since it's based off the amount of missing HP you have, and there's going to be a lot of healing and then damage dealing and then self damage dealing and then self healing if you've got like a warrior with bloodlust, which is not a bad idea for this build. um yeah, healing counteracts Berserker. Yeah, no, seriously, Scuttle Luck, like, there's a ton of cross class potential here. Berserker is actually probably one of my favorites for subclass picks. And honestly, it's kind of fun that I get to go through this with everybody, because I was not able to go through this with everybody beforehand. But yeah, just like Bolin saying, healing counteracts Berserker, so your buff isn't going to remain the same. Yeah, if you start the game off and then somehow get nuked down to 1 HP, like, this is a broken buff. But at the same time, it's high risk, high reward, right? Am I going to live to have another turn, or what's going to happen here? Like, that's the trade-off. The lower health I am, the more buff I get, but also the higher chance I have of not being able to take a turn next turn because I'm dead. Um, all in all, this is crazy good, especially because it could be used by everyone. That's the takeaway here, and also the fact that I won't have to pronounce Olfeonar mushroom after this particular sentence. All right, so moving on to our 2 costs. We got our bear skill, which is bear skin. X% effective physical defense increase in combat. Now, this is different than the original, which was an increase of endurance by a certain percentage. This one actually pigeonholes a little bit harder. It's probably more true to the vision, the original vision of the ability, which is great. But since we've learned that endurance is so much more than just physical reduction, it's also the effect resistance stat. It also ties into potentially lowering the duration of debuffs on yourself. Having increased endurance might actually be insane. I feel we're going to see a lot of changes to the knight, where rather than all of the increase effective endurance, like we'll probably still have some, but we'll probably see a couple of them swap over to increase physical defense. Very specifically, like we're seeing right here. I don't think this is bad by any means, but because it's a physical defense only, that's only half of the damage types in the game, right? There's physical and magical. So it leaves you a little bit open. This is still really good for building a tank. This is still really good if you've got a knight main class, or this is really good if you're just building a bruiser, right? If you're building someone who's just chunky and can deal damage, like this is fine. This is perfect. This is fantastic. This would also probably be a really good idea to put on your backline units, um, like your wizards or your archers, because towards the end of the game, they're most likely going to be so archers and wizards being in your backline. The main problem that they're going to be running into, the main threat, is going to be other archers and wizards, right? And if you've got a wizard with really high int and wisdom, you're already you already have some good magic damage reduction. But if you're up against an archer, they're just going to eat you alive, right? So maybe throwing in some physical defense on your wizard wouldn't be a bad idea, right? But for all intents and purposes, I'm going to give this an A. It's going to remain an A, because it's good, right? It's not great. The increase to endurance would have been superior to this, obviously. But because this depends solely on what the X is here, I was going to leave it here at the A. Prime time level my 725 HP Zerk. Yeah, geez, that's a ton of HP. At level 10 or at level 12, full tank. Yeah, endurance is kind of low, so I need to boost that ASAP. So what they did, with this increased physical defense rather than having increasing endurance everywhere, makes it so you don't have to be as endurance dependent, right? So whereas before it was an increase to your endurance, and if you just had low endurance, it would actually be lesser of a buff in terms of damage reduction than it would have before, right? So yeah, it scales the more you got, right? If you've got a 20% bonus to endurance, you're getting more if you've got 100 versus you having 50. So I think that's the good trade-off here. Is the vision of Bearskin was for physical defense to begin with, and now you're just getting a flat bonus to physical defense rather than potentially having to mess with stats. But moving on, we got Wolf Pelt. X% effective evasion in combat. This I'm gonna go ahead and give it a double S. It's very highly dependent on the X. I have a feeling that it's not going to be 5. Right? If it ends up being something single digit, this will probably go down in rating. Maybe not hard. I can only see like even if it's 5 to 8%, right? Say it's another foresight. This will probably only go down by 1. Like I'll probably still rank this an S. I mean, there's not much to be said here. It's really good. Evasion's useful on everybody in every situation. The whole point of the game is to not die, and if you can evade more hits, you don't die harder. If that makes sense. Pretty simple, pretty easy. Moving on, we got Boar Hide. X% effective basic attack increase in combat. Now, this I was going to say is kind of but with the recent revelations we received from Workhorse in the form of a single syllable response to my question, to my begging, he has handed down this important information that an X effective basic attack increase in combat not only affects all of your damage ability, but all of your spell abilities and healing. So this also is getting a double S. This is fantastic. I can't see how this would ever be a bad pick for almost anybody. I'm on the cusp of giving this triple S. On the cusp. Depending on the percent. If it's like 15% effective basic attack damage, like that's honestly that sounds perfect. That sounds perfect. If it's anything more, it'll probably go up to triple S. If it's like 5% basic attack, I would say you're better off choosing anything else, and this would go down. Short, simple, sweet. I like the two costs here. There's nothing wrong with them. Which light gray tone, easier to look at. So much better. Breaks up the spreadsheet just a little. I said, are you already pretty? All right, moving on to our 3 costs here. We've got Bloodlust. Self-inflict damage equal to X times basic plus X times vitality. Gain increased basic attack damage equal to X, which is a flat mod plus a portion of your vitality, or a mod of your vitality, for a duration of X. Now, I believe this is actually pretty similar to Bloodlust before, whereas it increased strength rather than basic attack. But because it's increased basic attack, it becomes even more useful than it was before. You do have to trade health for an increase, which makes this a little bit more risky, because we don't know how much that self-inflict damage is, or if that self-inflict damage scales. But yeah, no, it does. It scales with your own vitality. So the more vitality you have, the more damage this does to yourself. But the trade-off is the better buff you grant yourself. So essentially, this is trading like the bonus health you were getting from vitality to begin with for just a straight up basic attack increase. I think this is really good. I want to give this an S, but I'm having a hard time justifying a low rating like. Having a real hard time. Because if you're building for PvP, your units are most likely going to want vitality, a ton of vitality. I'm actually, I mean, this may or may not be wrong, you know. Don't at me. This isn't financial advice or anything. But I actually level up every single one of my units vitality first, because I mean, I want to play PvP with a lot of options, right? And the more HP you got, the longer you're going to last. So, if the difference between a common unit and a mythic unit, after everything's said and done, is what mythics get plus 10 to their stats every 5 levels. So what, they have 200 additional stats by level 100 than a common would. Man, that's a lot. But if the offset of that is like the mythic never ever put points into vitality, and by some extreme uh stroke of chance didn't land in they land their bonuses into vitality either. If you just hard level vitality on your common, I mean, you'll probably be able to last just as long as they. Fingers crossed. Anyway, um, hmm, this is really, really, really good. But I'm gonna leave it as an S right now, depending on the X here. Um, yeah, Scuttle Luck. Yeah, Bloodlust does have synergy with Yofer. Um, it has synergy with Yofer and Berserker Mushroom. So I mean, if you've got a Berserker main class, like there's almost no reason not to take this because it's an instance of you taking damage and or you have more percent missing HP. Um, and then you're just gonna be doing more damage, which is the whole job of the Berserker. You know what? Yeah, I'm talked into it. This is actually triple S. You don't have to worry about DoD. You don't got to worry about anything else other than duration. It's a 3 cost, so I'm assuming that you're going to be able to use this more than once per battle. If there is a cooldown, it'll probably be. I don't know. I'm thinking this might actually be like, why give it a cooldown? But like, I'd want to refresh it whenever I want. The only thing I can imagine is like it's too good, and they want to give it's a duration of 3 and with a cooldown of 5, right? They want you to have some times where you're not receiving this buff, but at the same time, like that would be an offsetting to the balance, whereas the self-inflict damage has already done that for you. So there may not be any cooldown on this whatsoever. If you're rocking DPS with Berserker, you want the self damage. No, 100%. You want the self damage for Berserker or Yofer. But mainly, yeah, you probably get more out of it immediately with Berserker Mushroom. What's up, effects? Nice to see you in here, man. Been increasing leveling vitality more and more too. All right, yeah. Stopped doing it for a while on DPS heroes, but game seems to like HP to be most prominent stat. Yeah, no, I think I crunched the numbers one time. This will probably surprise nobody. I know I've said it a couple times. I'm a huge math nerd, and this is not my only spreadsheet I've made to help me understand DFK. But I've tried to crunch the numbers as much as humanly possible, and the amount of HP difference by level 100, if you just pump 1 vitality as your like bonus, like your guaranteed bonus, is it's like staggering. It's like I think like between 30, I think it's like 30 and 40% more than you would if you had gone straight for DPS. And what I'm seeing all over the place is like, yeah, you're gonna want damage, but damage is gonna be there no matter what. If you build defensively, if you're able to take more hits than your opponent, that's action economy, like in the purest sense, and you're gonna have a better chance at winning, right? If everyone's wizards get 1 hit because they're building DPS utility, what's the point if they can't stick around? But if my wizard can take 2 or 3 hits and still pop off a couple spells, there's value. DPS isn't that much of a difference in the formulas. Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. I think HP will outmatch extra damage in the long run. And I mean long run in terms of like crafting's been out. We've got armor, we've got weapons, we've got all kinds of bonuses. We've got pet benefits out the wazoo. Who knows what else they're gonna add to the game with pendants, and there might even be like a special thing at some point where heroes of a certain level or like PJ somehow get to like add on an additional 5 skill points or 10 skill points, right? And can get an additional ability. Like it's crazy good. Like the amount of HP is going to be extremely important for PvP and PvE. However, in PvE, I see, you're definitely going to want more HP on the people who are going to be taking the damage rather than like it's PvE is usually a race. You know what I mean? Like how sustained can you make yourself while also crap out of your target. Bolon says that's what executes are for. Percentage damage for the win. That's what I'm saying, man. I really like executes. I think the trade-off for DoD is just great. Let's see. The only counter to HP is Giant Slayer, and that's not really too easy to get. No, I completely agree. And with deal self damage, you're gonna slide right under some of the Giant Slayers out there. What's up, Easy? Nice to see you, man. Yeah, poison's gonna be very interesting, PvE wise. I don't see them having the same. Well, so poison I think is going to act differently in PvE specifically because there I don't see a buff that never falls off that can ramp up to dealing 1/5 of the boss's HP per turn. Like, yeah, it'd be a really long fight to begin with, but I don't see that sticking around, especially because it wouldn't ramp up very quickly in the beginning, and it would just be kind of weird. I foresee them changing the poison debuff to something along the lines of like deal 5% of max HP, or like deal 3% of max HP per turn they take, or per action they use, something along those lines. In PvP, I think it's fine. That makes sense. If you can go that long without knocking a poison off, you're good to go. Let's see. Still torn on leveling vitality too heavily for spellcasters, since their large HP bonus rolls are less likely. I'm doing a mix of Vite and Endurance. I don't think that's a bad idea. I think Endurance is actually a really good idea on casters. But in terms of like the lowest you can possibly get off of 1 point in vitality is 0.5 health, right? I can't remember if it's rounded down around or not on an HP roll. I would imagine it is. But I mean, think about it from like 95 to 100. You're basically, if you get the low roll every single time, you're basically giving yourself 50 HP per level at the very end, right? It can really only benefit you, especially in the long run, and especially if you level vitality early. Since we can only get to level 20 right now, I think vitality is the most important thing you could possibly give yourself. I think defenses and damage are all going to be padded by armor and weapons, and obviously whoever's got better of those things are going to have more ability. But if you've just got a stupid amount of flat HP, you should you're good to go. I'm I'm a scrub pleb. I usually go to the highest growth rates. It's not a bad idea, honestly. I mean, as we can see here, what are the highest growth rates for a Berserker? Strength, vitality, and endurance, right? That's all we see the entire way down here. That's like what they're made for. So you can't go wrong with just leveling highest growth either. Yeah, prime time. Yeah, I agree. Endurance is pretty slept on for casters. Effect still not a bad option. Probably opt for Vite than highest growth stats, which is exactly what I do. That's exactly. I have vitality for literally everybody, and then whatever their growth stats are. I completely and utterly ignore profession, outside of my thieves. Every single thief is getting luck first, and then vitality, and then whatever their highest growth stat is. Which is, I mean, obviously agility. Let's see, less RNG. Yeah, oh, it's all about the compounding from the very beginning. Things like vitality, things like even intelligence and wisdom, right? Going into mana as you level up. Like those things are only going to compound over time, right? Your first 20 levels, you're not going to see much of a difference. But I mean, if you don't put anything into them the entire way, you're going to notice like, okay, from level 90 to 91, I had an increase of 70 HP, which is huge, right? But if you've been leveling vitality this entire time, you're going to see an increase of 270 from 90 to 91. It's just like such an incredible difference per level. Unique builds are sure, but harder to spec into. I mean, it's 100% true. What's up, Dabin? Nice to see you, man. Well, I did luck on every single hero for a little bit just to boost it a bit. I like lucky stuff. Yeah, no, seriously, I switched over to scaling luck exclusively on my thieves, and I'm not kidding you. I get 5 times more. I have a bunch of thief fishers that have blue luck, and I get about 5 times more blue eggs than I do gray eggs because of it. It's crazy good. Thought, yeah, the math doesn't lie. No, seriously, math, like math can only be good for you, man. Um, but I've derailed a little hard here. Um, so yeah, bloodlust is just good. Increases everything you want. Um, you can self-inflict damage, but there's ways to mitigate this, right? If you, this is most likely the self-inflict damage can if you've got some sort of damage reduction on your character, this probably goes through it. This can be remedied by self damage, right? You're just trading HP for basic attack damage, which is all ability damage, all spell damage, and all healing. Like it's just good. Yeah, it's up. Yeah, thanks, Skull. Yeah, it's up to you guys to derail me since Maddie isn't here. And Maddie's not here today. He was just busy. I mean, we'll give him a night off. Last week was a bit intense. We were on for almost 5 hours, I think. Um, but yeah, no, Bloodlust is just good. I think I recommended this in the Berserker Priest build as well that someone asked me for. Um, but yeah, I think this would be an incredible buff following some setup. I think this goes through damage reduction, so you might actually not end up dealing that much damage to your. So moving on, we got Howl from the Wolf Tree. Unleash a furious howl that terrifies all enemies. Reduce damage dealt by all enemies by X% for a duration of X. This one is super simple to me. It's an AoE. It's a fantastic debuff. It is only held back by its DOD, and because of that, I will grant this an S. I think this is fantastic. It's one of the only instances of damage reduction for enemies or damage dealt by enemies that we've seen in a while. And hitting all of them is the same as is just putting damage reduction on your entire team. This gains rating very easily, especially in intimidation teams. If you've got 3 sources of intimidation, which would give you a 15% wide reduction in enemy damage, and you get this off, like they're gonna be slapping you with wet noodles. It's gonna be great. Duration's probably gonna be 2 or 3. I don't imagine it being 3. Definitely not more than. But yeah, the DoD is the only thing that really holds this back. Don't know how often you'll be able to use it, but I mean, there ain't nothing wrong with it. It's just good. Moving on, we got Blind Rage. Enter a Blind Rage and slash X time, hitting all enemies randomly and dealing damage equal to X times basic per slash. I believe this was very carefully worded, not to say slash with multiple basic attacks. I think this is actually going to be very interesting. This is going to be fishing for because it's got a range of 3. It's fantastic. Number 1. I think this is fishing for critical hits. This is fishing for status on hit abilities such as toxic. There's nothing really bad about it. Anything different about it for what it used to be? I don't think there is. I think this is almost exactly verbatim this. but yeah, other than the uh, range, and so I think this is. I think I'm gonna give this an S. There's nothing wrong with this. It's a fantastic damage ability. I would use this after setup, obviously. But yeah, this is one of those instances where I would highly recommend Toxic, or dang it, I said I wasn't gonna have to pronounce it, but the Olfeonar mushroom is, mostly what you're gonna be wanting to use this one. Each instance this hero deals damage, and whatever that slash X times is just gonna help you stack that up even faster. Nice, simple, sweet, to the point, fantastic move. Then we got our forecast abilities. We got in Daber, we got Primal Strength, increase effective strength by X% in combat, decreases effective endurance in combat. So this is your this is a trade-off right here. This is a trade-off specifically for damage. Take away my defenses and give me more damage. I believe this is actually different than what Primal Strength was before. The last one was decreases speed. It was decreased agility for an increase in strength, which is, I thought, probably the better way to do this. This is making me think that they're rethinking this because it's probably going to be pretty powerful. They really want to lean into we want this choice to mean something. So if you choose it, expect to be taking lots of damage. I think this is pretty cool. I like the trade-off here. David, sorry if I missed, but what was the change? So the way that this one was changed, this is increases strength but decreases endurance. It used to increase strength and decrease agility, so you kept your defensives, except for oh, why change the Berserker up in general? Well, it because it wasn't officially released, and I'm sure you can hear me using air quotes there. Um, they, I guess initially it was a teaser leak rather than a full like pre-alpha release of the hero. So this is their like official releasing of the Berserker, and they have changed quite a bit. I'd say, the basic themes are still here. I thought it was going to be like 85-90% was the exact same, but that's not the case. I'm finding little things all over the place, like the endurance agility swap all over the place. Um, so this warrants a whole like look through again. Yeah, Bolon. When it was shown, it was just meant to be an example to give. I hadn't gone through all the refinement yet. Just wanting to show people what we were looking at, working on. Yeah, so I mean, it wasn't bad by any means. It definitely got us all started. I'd have it out. I have it here on the very tail end of the sheet. I made a new spreadsheet called Outdated, and this is the old Berserker stuff. Um, and they received the only I've given out ever, besides Toxic in the very beginning. This has changed, thankfully. They did take a look at Dragon Slayer and they did change it up, so I can't wait to not give it an F. But yeah, this is the old stuff. Like I said, this is on the this section is for outdated data, no longer relevant, but you can see the changes that were made. I'll probably put a date for this as well, when the but yeah, digressing a little bit. I think this change is interesting. I think it actually makes me reconsider how much I'd want to pick this as well. Also a good source of a little early feedback. Wow, he's obviously included. No, I appreciate you guys like actually taking a look at community feedback. It legitimately warms my heart because you see so many like projects that go live, or you see so many games that are out there where you see people like begging and pleading for a change to a mechanic that's either broken in terms of value or broken in terms of like playability, and no one can play against it. Like I really enjoy the fact that you guys are willing to listen rather than just be like, well, wait for the next patch in 6 months. It's actually pretty sweet. But the increased strength and decrease endurance in combat, it's this gives me pause, like legitimately, because before it was decrease in agility and you would trade your turn priority to hit harder. But now you're trading your survivability to hit harder, which I think is still really cool. But rather than the increase to basic attack, it is increased to strength this time. Um, so you're giving who, like, cross class wise, whoever picks this is taking a hit to their own personal defenses. You definitely want to have this on somebody who's not in your front line, who's not constantly taking damage. This is probably a really good pick for like a P2 spot. I'm thinking seems like a better trade-off philosophy. I do more damage in exchange, take more damage. Yeah, no, like it makes sense for sure. I'm just trying to figure out how I would rate this, because the increase to strength is not an increase for everybody, right? It's an increase to your warriors, it's an increase to your berserkers, it's an increase to your knights and your physical martial classes, but it's not an increase for your casters. Clearly a wowie. Yes, definitely. Definitely this gets the bowling right here. I really like this. I like the flavor. I'm gonna say this actually stays an A for right now because it's strength based. And it decreases endurance. The decreased endurance is the high risk portion. The coveted bowling rating. Yeah, that's right. um, it's definitely not worse than an F. But I'm gonna keep it an A right now because this requires extra thought. Right, it requires extra thought, extra setup, extra consideration when choosing this ability, especially for cross class. Um, and it's just not as useful as a pick for everybody in a cross class environment, obviously. But for now, this will remain an A. If this is increased like effective strength by 20% and decrease effective endurance by 10%, I'll probably give it a little bit, more of a rating, but it still suffers from the same thing. It's just not usable by everybody. Um, yeah, I'm gonna leave it at an A. Moving on, we got Wolfpack. For each living ally, gain X% increased damage. Now that does not say basic attack damage. That says increased damage. Period. That's actually pretty interesting because I remember the last time it said increased physical damage. Increased physical damage, and I actually rated this pretty poorly because it was effectively the same thing as leadership, but stacked on top of it, and it suffered from the it more suffered from the same thing that leadership suffers from, which is when one person dies, this exponentially loses like the benefit you get from it. But I don't think that that's the case right now because gain X% increased damage period makes it so that it's physical and magical, and this is active from the very start of the battle. So this is for your really fast teams. I'm going to give this a double S. This is for your really fast teams. This is for teams that don't require more than a turn or two of setup, because you want to be getting this out before anyone dies, right? This is something you're going to be using a lot of. And the only real drawback to this is in long, drawn out games, and you're losing a unit or you lost 2 units, this becomes effectively useless. So you're gonna want to build this on fast units. But yeah, for now, I'm going to give it an SS, especially if you have this on leadership team. Like it's just good if you've got it on leadership. Get yourself triple leadership. I believe the meta is going to be, and this is truly in my brain right now. The meta is going to be triple leadership, triple intimidate, and you can't convince me otherwise. I'm sorry, it's just too much value. But moving on, we got Wild Frenzy in the board tree. Each instance's hero basic attacks, lovely, gain a chance equal to a flat mod plus luck mod to deal X additional basic attacks to the target. This is really interesting. This is really, 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 really cool. And from what we've seen in the Pirate, for all hands on deck, this hero and each ally consecutively perform a basic attack, dealing physical damage to target enemy in P1. This hero gains first strike, blah, 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 blah. But it's everyone deals a basic attack. And then in the Warrior, we've got basic attack. Blade Flurry? No. It was in the bottom. Right here. Fury. Each instance this hero does a basic attack or does basic attack damage, gain X Fury at X stacks of Fury. This hero's next basic attack deals damage equal to a mod of basic attack. And then there were things like Blade Flurry, which was unleash a flurry of basic attacks. Like, this is fantastic. This is fantastic for that. It just keeps stacking on higher and higher and higher. I would actually like to believe that the deal additional basic attacks to enemy could snowball this, and it can roll off of itself and keep dealing basic attacks. I would probably, if I were to change anything here, I'd probably want to add in a caveat of either these extra basic attacks can't trigger this ability again, or this ability can only be triggered twice in a row, something like that. Some sort of limiter on that one, just for clarification. But again, if you've got Ulfanar Mushroom, like this is stupid good. I like this a lot. I like it a lot. I'm gonna give it a triple S, because I believe that basic a spell also applies to this. So everybody can get benefit from this no matter what. No, that's wrong. Double S. Final answer, double S. Yeah, no, Bolin, you're 100% right. You got to get luck. Luck is so important everywhere. If there's a chance that something's going to happen, it goes through luck. I don't know about you guys, but I like my chances of stuff happening. Love this as a subclass ability. Next subclass of all heroes. Yeah, no, I've been there a couple times. I'll end stream after going through these abilities and like have all these kinds of ideas, and then check all my heroes and go, oh, I can't do any of my ideas. But we're gonna move on to our 5 costs. These are our basic capstones. Really, really good. So up first, we got Spore Coated Blade. Deal damage equal to basic mod to target enemy. This attack has a X% chance to poison the target, as well as this hero. Okay. I think that's different than before already. Target receives X% additional damage from this hero for a duration of X. I think that's different as well. So I believe it was before, it was it wasn't an X% chance to poison. It was literally poison the target and yourself and receive the additional damage for the rest of the battle. So this has actually been interestingly nerfed / buffed The introduction of DoD is scary to say the least. But on top of that, this has a range of 2. So this can reach just about anybody. Get P1, P2. Yes, the Summoner Berserker is gonna be great. I'm telling you right now, Summoner's gonna it's gonna deal a lot of damage if it's got a Berserker subclass. I think the whole vision of a Berserker is if it hit, it may now hit harder. um, but a range of 2 makes this much more interesting. The DoD makes it scarier. The percent chance to poison my target is the nerf, but the percent chance to not poison myself is a buff. And their target receiving X% additional damage from this hero for a duration. Not sure how long that duration is going to be. So at the moment, there's a lot going on here. This is really interesting. I like it. There's a lot going on, and a lot can go wrong, but I like the range on it. I'm gonna give it an S for now. I do really like it. I want to give it a double S, but I have to see that DoD first. I gotta see the DoD. I gotta see the X's. Because if they're low and the DoD high, I mean, it'll probably, this is what I'm expecting, is like the chance to poison targets like 30 to 50%, as well as yourself. The only problem is you could attack the target with this, hit and hit past the DoD, right? It doesn't poison your target, it poisons yourself, and then you get the additional damage on your target. So bring a cleanse. Or you said it once, get the counter out. I said it once. I think this deserves an S. High risk, high reward. This is definitely not going under the mantle of the Consistency Kings. I can already feel Maddie gagging at the thought of being forced to use this ability. But for people like me, I can't wait. I'll take risk all day. Moving on though, we got Brutal Act, another 2-range DoD move. Deal damage to a random party member equal to basic plus strength mod. Deal damage to a random enemy equal to basic plus strength mod. Now, so it's a random enemy in P1 or P2. This is kind of This is a strange one. How does it differ from Brutal Act before? Right. The before Brutal Act was deal damage to target ally equal to strength mod. Deal damage to target P1 strength mod. It's essentially the exact same. It just has a random range. So it can either hit the front or it can hit the middle target. But you have to deal damage to a party member. I would assume that if you dealt damage to your tank, it probably wouldn't do that much. I'm thinking there's a lot of setup here. Probably almost too much setup here. Not much setup other than damage reduction and target your tank. I'm gonna leave this as an A for right now. I'll leave this as an A. I don't. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if the DoD would count towards. How would the DoD work here? So if I attack my unit, I attack my ally, and it misses, and then I attack an enemy, and it doesn't miss. Can that even happen? Right? Remember Workhorse talking about if one part of the move, if the part of the move misses, the rest of it doesn't happen. But I'm wondering if you could like target your evasion freak of nature, with this DoD. So if you can get like an evasion score of like 60 and this has a DoD of 40, right? So it's a 100% chance to miss your ally, and then the DoD is just regular across the board. I think this is actually really good. It would still require a ton of setup. So for that reason, I'm gonna leave it as an A. Yeah, no, Bull, I completely agree with that. Like the problem, like that's the way I think about it is like I'm gonna be targeting my tank, right? Someone who's got damage reduction on, someone who is using Living Rage and can't die right now, or gets the buff from the priest and can't die for a couple turns. Um, I think that this would be perfect to use on them, but that's more of a like situational benefit rather than like how most people are going to be utilizing this in like general combat. Yeah, and it's random. So you're dealing P1 or P2, but you don't get to decide which. So I'm going to keep this as A. I still think this is like it's interesting, but I think putting your own units in danger is usually not a bad thing, because I mean we got to remember that crit chance also exists as well, and if you crit your ally and then you end up like hitting their P1 with like their front line with damage reduction, just based on the 50/50, and you don't crit them, it's like, man, you just did more bad than good. So this actually like requires setup to be able to use appropriately. I don't see this being like, I see this being one of those abilities that's used later on, like late game. Early game, I don't see many people picking this one up. I'm kind of on the I'm on the edge of actually rating this. Like I want to believe it's a tank killer move, but if it's a tank killer move, then it wouldn't have range, because if it's meant to kill tanks, then it would absolutely obliterate anything in P2. They wouldn't give me a 50/50 for that. And it requires too much of a defensive setup. At the moment, before I can see anything else, like I have to know I have to know how this like actually works, right? Can I crit my ally? Can does targeting my ally that's fully evasion spect and missing my ally with DoD, would that cause me to miss the rest of the ability and not deal any damage to my enemy? I just There's too many unknowns here, right? So for right now, I'm gonna leave this as a B, because you could potentially lose a ton of value on this one if a random crit just walks across you. That never ever ever target a wizard with, please. You're gonna one hit your own team. It'll be funny at least. But moving on, we got Blood Rage. We got Unleash Hell, sweet. Swirling, swinging axes in all directions, dealing AoE damage to all combatants, equal to basic mod plus strength mod plus luck mod, become exhausted. This is really interesting. The DoD, it's actually kind of interesting that it has DoD. I'm gonna be completely honest. I didn't expect this to have DoD, because the trade-off already is that you're dealing damage to your own party members. Requires an axe. I don't think it's gonna require an axe, unless everyone's pigeonholed into their own weapons, right? So like if crafting goes the way of, you know, swords are for warriors, daggers are for rogues, bows are for archers, axes are for berserkers. If it goes that route, then yeah, axe will be required. Or if it goes the route of like, basically melee physical, melee magic, ranged physical, ranged magic, and you could just put whatever you want in there. I don't think there's going to be a requirement for like a specific weapon. But then again, like it could go either way, or some of the third way I'm not even thinking of it. But this is really interesting. The DoD's throwing me off. I don't see why you would need DoD if you're already dealing damage to your own team members, because what that tells me is I can deal damage. I could potentially only deal damage to my side, which I guess is the whole point of the risk versus reward here. Um, I guess so this would be really good to use if you're the last one standing and you've got duelist, you know what I mean? And you've got no other units on your side to deal damage to. Um like that's really good. This is also really good for Ulfheonar mushroom usage. Because rather than one attack, you're doing 6. Or well, I don't know if you're dealing damage to yourself here, so 5 instances of damage just right off the bat. um I don't know if I'm gonna be switching this one up. The DoD has me confused. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna leave this in A. I really like the idea of it. But because of the DoD, if it didn't have DoD, I'd probably give this like a double S. Um, but because of the DoD, there's a chance that I can only deal damage to my units and not the enemy units. And in terms of Shark Tank, and for that reason, I'm moving on to the 10 plus. We're flying through, totally not taking literally the exact same amount of time as I would have if Maddie was here. um, but first we got Bearskin Plus, and for those in the back that weren't here towards the very beginning, Bearskin is a 2 cost, which just increases physical defense in combat. So this is an 8 cost ability. We've got X% effective physical defense increase in combat, increase evasion by X%. Hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Actually, I don't think this is. I think the difference. I think they did the exact same thing as. Yeah, the exact same difference between Bearskin, where they just replaced endurance with physical defense, and this one throws in evasion. There ain't nothing wrong with this. I actually think this is fantastic. It's I'm gonna give it a double S. Simple, sweet, to the point. This is just purely defensive, and it's for free forever. You get bonus evasion, you get bonus physical damage, take less damage, and potentially don't take any damage. I like I like the sound of it. It's perfect. Don't change it. The cost of 8 is really the only drawback here. Any other potential drawbacks I could see would be the percentages being fairly low. Like if these are like 10%, probably not worth it. If these are 15%, maybe. I could definitely see a case of like, oh, this is an automatic buy if it's 15%, or if it's like I would be beside myself if I didn't pick it up. Bolin says probably like the pirate one that said blunderbuss. Hubert said that when those abilities are used, the hero will produce the blunderbuss. In that case, the hero would likely produce axes. Oh yeah, to Eric's era question. Yeah, I mean that would make sense. It would just be in the animation. Plus, I mean PvP is going to be going live without crafting. I'm assuming to begin with. So I think the hero card that has an axe already will probably suffice. um, yeah. So moving on, we got Bloodlust Plus, which is a 3 cost. So this is a 7 cost. This is an average cost here. Bloodlust before was self-inflicted damage, gain increased basic attack damage, equal to Vite, for a duration of X. And got anything different here? We got self-inflict damage, cool, based on vitality. Gain increased basic attack damage equal to X% based on vitality. We have a flat plus endurance mod percent chance to silence a random enemy. This is actually pretty interesting. This is very interesting because this is I could see why they took the increase or they changed the increase effective endurance to physical defense, because they have endurance scaling abilities in here that are really interesting. This is just a random chance to, like, it's not just a silence, right? So yeah, there's a chance that you're not going to silence their spellcaster. There's a chance that they don't even have a spellcaster, and you're not going to get the benefit out of the true silence. But the silence is more than just the silence, it's also an interrupt, right? So this is a random chance to just interrupt anybody from channeling. And we've seen a lot of people can channel, and this has no DOD. I like this a lot, actually. I'm gonna give this an S for right now. Depending on what that endurance chance is, I'm probably gonna give this a double S. Like in best case scenario, this gets a double S. This is very, very interesting. It's so you basically, so action economy on this one is strange, right? Which was before. Right? Bloodlust. I know I gave geez, I gave it triple S, that's right. Because it was basic attack damage. And it's probably gonna be higher mods. I wasn't even thinking about that before. Yeah, no, this is triple S. For sure. So it's probably going to be higher mods, because a lot of these pluses are just normally they're higher mods. But on top of that, you have a random chance to silence an enemy. Action economy in this case is I use my turn to deal damage, unfortunately, to myself. But then I gain a benefit of increased basic attack damage, which could be increased physical damage, ability damage, basic attack damage, basic spell, all spell abilities, and healing. It just affects everything for a duration of X, right? It's fantastic, good trade-off. But now something actually occurs on my turn, chance anyway, which is to silence a random enemy. This is just good. I wouldn't bump it from a triple S to a WoW-E. I think this is very fair. Like it doesn't push it over the edge. I think this is very well rounded. I really, really, really hope that the endurance percent chance is actually fairly high. Or the mods have been adjusted so that they're higher as well. Maybe even reduce the amount of damage you deal to yourself, or increase the amount of damage you deal. That would be interesting. I like that. I gotta see too many X's here. Is the problem. So we're gonna move on. We got Wolf Pack, which is a 4 cost. Each living ally gain X% increased damage. It's passive. This one's also a passive, so this makes it a 6 cost. So it's actually cheap. For each dead ally, gain X% increased damage. So I remember what I used to think when I first saw this one. I thought that this was in addition to the original one. So I thought for each living you gain blah blah blah. For each dead you also gain blah blah blah. I thought they were combined into one, but I'm assuming that's not the case anymore. This makes me think that the X% increased damage is going to be astronomical compared to what it was before, whereas for each living ally could be used immediately at the very start of combat. You would have to get to the very end of combat and have both of your allies dead. I'm assuming that this X% is going to be like 30%. It's going to be something great, like 25 or 30%. I actually would rate this lower because you can't get the benefit right away, right? It's too conditional, and it's based off of and it's based off of what your opponent chooses to do, right? Yeah, right. Kill your own team. I was actually thinking about that, right? So, say for instance, you've got two priests, or you've got two knights, right? You got two knights, and they're subclassed into priest, and you both picked up divine martyr, right? So one knight goes, he's got a ton of HP remaining, so you give a ton of stats to the two remaining. The other knight goes, he martyrs himself. He's got all these buffed stats, and he dies, and gives all and just makes your berserker into this final boss menace. And then you also get this crazy increased damage, right? And then on top of that, you just so happen to like be a cheeky butthole, and you've decided to go double duelist because you this was your plan all along on your berserker, and now you've got just this like insanely powerful, ridiculous damage machine. And then you pull out the AoE, right? Now you can go ahead and throw in throw in your blood rage, right? You deal damage to everybody. There's nobody left, so why might as well, right? I think this is really good. Like I said, for conventional use, I don't think you'd actually get the benefit out of it as often, especially if your enemy has access to seeing what kind of skills you have. If they could see you've got Wolfpack Plus, this is what I would call a mental taunt, and it would make people want to kill this unit first to diminish the value it would receive later on. But then again, like I said, this thing will scale hard. This thing will scale really hard. um, there's ways to get a lot of value out of this, but because it's not useful as often, which I think is a fine trade-off, it's rated just a tad lower. Because I don't want to include literally everything all at once. Any like I can't include every single possibility in the perfect situation. I'm trying to make sure I consider what's most likely going to take place, like what's the average player going to see with this. And they're only going to see a small buff if your berserker is not the first one, right? So be careful with this pick. If you do pick it, make sure you are ready for it, right? So just for shits and giggles, remember divine martyr is sacrifice this hero, right? You kill your hero. Allied heroes gain several effects or several effective buffs to HP, wisdom, intelligence, and vitality. Where X is the percent of remaining relative HP to the priest's base stat value, right? In turn, the ally gains X percent of the priest's max stats, right? HP and vitality are really the only important things here. So if you've got two knights, like I said, that both have priest subclasses, you divine martyr both of them, you've now made a absolute menace in terms of a defensive and offensive buff. This thing is going to be scary. There's no sugarcoating it. It's gonna be scary. Um, well, moving on, we got Howl Plus, which we have Howl, which is a 3 cost, so that makes Howl Plus a 7 cost, which is average. Unleash a Furious Howl, reduce all damage dealt by enemies for duration with the DoD. We got DoD still with the plus version, but it looks like we get something else. Unleash a Furious Howl that terrifies all enemies. Reduce damage dealt by all enemies by X percent for a duration of X, and then the addition of a flat mod plus strength mod chance to fear a random enemy. Now that is cool. I like this a lot. Reduce damage dealt. It's the same thing. Reduce damage dealt by all enemies. So that's all types of damage. Reduce damage dealt by all enemies. Yep, same thing. And then you've got a strength chance to fear a random enemy. Like, fear is just so stupidly weirdly good. Obviously, it's not as useful if this gets plopped onto a backline wizard. But I think this deserves at least a double S. This is really good. It's just a control ability, and I really like it a lot. Hopefully, and I mean this sincerely, the DoD is a little bit less, or the damage reduction is higher. Because I don't want to be spending 7 points for basically the same thing as a 3 cost with just like now a small chance to be able to fear the enemy and still have to go through DoD where I could use that somewhere else. Um, Depending on the X and depending on DoD, this may lose rating after discovery. Moving on, we got Blood Rage Plus, super cool. Love this ability. Even though I didn't rate it too high, I still really like it. Unleash Hell, swirling and swinging axes in all directions, dealing AoE damage to both teams, equal to basic plus strength plus luck mod. A lot. If target is inflicted with a bleed, increase CSC, which I'm assuming means critical strike chance, by X%, become exhausted. I think this is super cool. I haven't seen anything yet that like procs bleed chances, but you could probably build a bleed team and get a ton of value out of this, especially by increasing crit chance. The become exhausted makes me think that this does a crap load of damage. I think this just does a super crazy amount of damage. Let's see here. I think I don't want to give it a regular S. I think I'm going to give it a double S because I really, really, really enjoy this. I enjoy the critical strike chance. I enjoy the setup required with bleed effects. I like how this can fit into like any other class's bleed build. Like I believe Warrior's the only time we've seen bleed. Let's see. Maybe here? Nope. We got bleed once in. Nope. No. Yes. We got a bleed ability, twist the blade in Warrior. So that'll help. I thought we had a couple more instances somewhere. In Pirate. That's right. We got bleed chance in Pirate. So it looks like Pirate code build. We got Unlucky Jenkins, we got a ton of bleed chances here. Oh well, no, I guess not a ton. We got Unlucky Jenkins and Disabling Blow, both have pluses on them. But this would be a fantastic pairing with that. Increasing critical strike chance on enemies is probably going to be everything. So using something along the lines of like critical aim before doing an AoE is crucial, right? So you want to do this, you want to have a 70% chance to crit for the next 2 turns, and then you want to AoE on those next 2 turns, right? You want to have your buff, you want to have critical aim, you want to AoE. You want to do as much damage as humanly possible. On the Berserker, that's a very bad idea, because if you've got an increased chance to critically hit, you're going to AoE your own team. You do not want that to happen. By all means, you want to mitigate the chances of critting your own teammates as much as humanly possible. So the fact that you can artificially increase critical strike chance on the enemy and not yourself gives this a shit ton of value. Like this is beautifully done. This is beautifully executed. This is like chef's kiss of an ability right here, especially when you're looking at things like benefit versus trade-off, high risk, high reward types of moves and abilities. This is fantastic. Well done. I like this a lot. Yep. Deserves the double S. So we're moving on to Blind Rage Plus. Where was Blind Rage? It was 3, so we got another 7 cost here, which is average. Before it was enter a blind rage /X times, hitting all enemies randomly, dealing damage equal to basic per slash. And this new one is enter a blind rage and /X times, hitting all enemies randomly and dealing damage equal to basic per slash. If target is hit at least X times, X% chance to blind target for that duration of X. Become exhausted. Okay, so I do remember this one. I really enjoyed this one. The difference here is that the blind is now a percent chance to apply, and it has DOD. I'm sure it had DOD before. But now we've got a chance to blind target after hitting it X times, which you can what word am I looking for? You could stack the deck in your favor, so to speak. Whereas if you've got one enemy remaining, this is almost guaranteed, right? The blind chance, however, is not. I would say a really good way to like change this is after a target has been hit so many times, every subsequent hit has a chance to blind, rather than at the very end, if it was hit X times, as a chance to blind the target. I don't know. Semantics. I'm being picky as hell. I still really like this, but I believe that the addition of DOD and the chance to blind, rather than blinds target if hit X times, because that's already a trade-off in on its own. This might allude to you're going to get enough hits out to, if you roll well enough, you might be able to have a chance to blind everybody. But I'm not willing to take that risk. I think it's a really good ability. I'm going to give it a double S. I think I gave it a triple S before, and I do believe that the introduction of DOD and the percent chance rather than 100% chance to blind does lower its rating. But that's good. We've got more information about it. So, moving on to our ultimate abilities. We're rounding this out. We're going pretty good. We're going pretty strong. This still may end up being our fastest stream yet. We got Blood of Our Enemies. Bear build. Activate the basic attack target hero. So far, that doesn't sound so great. Range of 1. It's got DOD. If target is inflicted with a bleed, increase critical strike chance by X%. I love that. Combo. If X or more bear abilities have been cast by this hero this battle, this attack gains 30% lifesteal. Holy crap. That's really good. That's really good. Wow. I'm not even turned off by the DOD on this one. This is really interesting. I like this a lot. What do I give this? I want to give this a double S. I think I've given everything a double S. I want to give this a double S. I really like this a lot. Only drawback is DOD, and that's not really much of a drawback because there's a lot of benefit happening here. If you've got a high dex build, like anyone with a high dex build, an archer or a spellbow with this ability to offset the DOD, like this is fantastic. Use your bleed builds. Use your bleed teams. This is great. The 30% lifesteal is incredible. Because if you crit hard enough and you hit hard enough, you may be able to, I mean, if you're attacking someone who's got, basically no defenses, right? So take our archer example, by the way, right? You use your archer, you use this ability, you offset the DOD, you basically have 100% hit anyway. You've spec'd all into accuracy, and it's like pure damage rather than critical hit chance. Now, this gives you critical hit chance, and you can hit super hard, hopefully if you've augmented your basic attack somehow throughout the build, and you've cast X or more bear abilities, which I'm pretty sure not all of them are passives. Yeah, there's a couple bear abilities that aren't passive. Not many. 30% lifesteal can effectively probably full heal you if you crit hard enough. This is really interesting. I'm not 100% sure how well the X or more bear abilities is going to work in a cross class when you're spending 10, right? So what, we've got one, that's it. You can choose one other ability, because if you choose Bloodlust, you won't be able to afford Spore Coated Blade. If you choose Spore Coated Blade, you'll be maxed out, right? And those are the only non-passive bear abilities you can choose. I guess other than Bloodlust Plus, but you can't afford that anyway. So depending on how often you can use Spore Coated Blade and Bloodlust is how beneficial this is going to be. I'm going to leave this as a double S. I think this is a very difficult cross-class ability to pull off. But for a main class Berserker, this is really good. I like this a lot. Moving on. We got Living Rage, one of my favorite abilities. I hope they didn't change this one too much. Activate to reduce this hero's HP to 1. This hero cannot die for a duration of X and deals X% additional damage. Amnesia X? Amnesia X? Ooh. Living Rage. So I initially, when I first read this, thought that it was Amnesia Living Rage. You could not possibly cast this again. But Amnesia X means that there's a cooldown. You only can't cast it for a certain amount of time. This is interesting. You know, I'm liking this a lot. I could potentially cast it again in the future as well. So I go down to 1 HP. I absolutely decimate with my Berserker Mushroom, where I get basic attack damage equal to the percent of my health missing. I was super cool and double clutched it up, so now I've got 60% additional damage going, right? Giant Slayer can't hit me for nothing. Nobody can kill me, and I'm just an unstoppable killing machine. And I could potentially cast it again. Do I wanna? I think I'm gonna bump it up. I'm gonna give it a Wowie. This gets our first Wowie rating since the reintroduction or the official release of the Berserker. Exactly, and then you get a full heal. So you could utilize this. I don't think this is like a debuff or a buff that you could dispel. 100%. Yeah, if you've got Giant Slayer or let's see, yeah, Giant Slayer. Honestly, it doesn't matter if you've got Giant Slayer at this point, because Clutch is the exact same. It's 100% a Wowie. If you've got Clutch or double Clutch, or you've got Giant Slayer and Clutch, like, this is bonkers. You immediately activate whatever low HP threshold setup you've got, and then you get to live for an X amount of turns, deal as much damage as you want, get your heal in your clutch situations, right? And then you're back to normal. You get the most benefit out of a heal at this point, because it can only do good. And then after a couple turns, however long X is, I mean, that could be like 10 turns. Ridiculous. But I mean, if you're survivable enough, why not? You can cast it again at some point in the future. Like, this is just fantastic. Wowie. I love this ability. I can't wait to use it. Alrighty, we're moving on. Decimation, which I believe was a boar ability. Yeah, that was a boar ability, and this is a boar ability in the previous rendition. It has been changed to a bear ability, probably so Blood of Our Enemies has an easier time of being activated. Maybe. Who knows? So we've got Decimation, deal damage equal to enemies in P1 and P2. Deal damage to enemies in P1 and P2. Equal to basic plus strength mod plus dex mod. It's already pretty good. It's just a cleave. We've got a flat mod plus strength percent chance to slow each target. Sweet. Combo if Blood Rage was cast in the last. Ooh. So it's not last turn. You get more setup. Because Blood Rage was cast in the last X durations. Flat plus strength percent chance to stun both targets. Oh, dang, I like this. Oh, dang, I like this a lot. What was Blood Rage again? Oh, yeah, that super crazy. All right. I think I'm going to give this a triple S. This is fantastic. It's a cleave ability that's probably going to hit hard as hell. DOD is probably going to be pretty substantial because this is a cleave and it's probably going to hit really hard. But you've got your control in the form of a slow, and then you've got double control in the form of a stun, which who knows what it is, but it's a strength based stun, which means, good thing you got a Berserker. They've got an 85% growth rate on strength. But any other strength built martial character will be able to utilize this extremely well. Speaking of which, I believe oh no, never mind. Brain farted there a little bit. Definitely can't have a pirate Berserker. Let's see. Yeah, no, this is fantastic. This is just good. Pure value. Let's see. BCM is there spell crit? Yeah. BCM, we did confirm there is 100% spell critting. Yeah, that DOD is probably going to be scary high, but it's too much value here. Stun's too good. Stun's too good on multiple units. This deserves its triple S. Then we're moving on to the Wolf Ultimates. We got Primal Rend. Deal damage equal to basic plus strength. If target is inflicted with bleed, hell yeah, my bleed build bros. There's nothing in here so far that inflicts bleed, which is weird. There's nothing in here that inflicts bleed, but there's a lot of, if it is bleeding, increase critical strike chance by X%. Combo decimation. So this would be post decimation. If target enemy has less than X% HP, deal additional damage equal to basic strength. So we're just gonna assume that this is just double damage, right? It's a range of 2, which is super cool. It's got DOD, which, I mean, it's expected because this is a super cool move. I like that it's a series move with Decimation and Blood Rage. This is pretty interesting. I wish at some point this would have allowed a chance to stack a bleed on a target. But, I mean, it's probably up to the rest of your team, however you're going to build your team to stack bleeds. But bleed build's looking really, really, really cool. This is like a pseudo execute ability as well. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna give this a double S. It's really interesting. I like the increased critical strike chance. I think the bleed. I think the fact that they're making you want to build a bleed build is really good. I like the series with Decimation and Blood Rage. The only thing that gets me here is if target has less than X% HP. So it's a combo with a condition to get the additional benefit, which would be the only reason why I'm not giving this a triple S. Because the combo is a little bit more difficult to pull off than it probably should be. But yeah, moving on. We've got Kvelduf Blow. Kvelduf Blow. We got deal damage equal to X plus or basic plus strength. Target hero in P1. We got a strength % chance to stun target for a duration of X. We got a what? Whoa! So it's a strength % chance to stun target for a duration of X. A strength % chance to stun it for an additional turn. And then another strength % chance to stun for an additional turn. Become exhausted for a duration of X. And X equals the number of durations the target was stunned. This is fantastic. I love this move. I'm gonna give this a triple S. And if you, I mean, come on, it's the trope at this point. If you bring a cleanse, this is fantastic. I know. I remember Workhorse's explanation of exhaustion. Said it couldn't be cleansed unless otherwise stated. Still a little confused on that one. I'm not sure what the otherwise stated is referring to. If it's referring to a state of exhaustion that says it can be cleansed, or if it specifically says cleanse the debuff from cleanse, or cleanses all negative status effects. Like, I'd want to use it here. This essentially just cripples one unit on the enemy team for, severely impacting impact or future impact rather of your own Berserker. This is super cool. I love this ability. This is just like you and me are taking a nap now. I'll see you in 3 rounds. This is great. I love this ability. I think it's perfect. I wouldn't change a thing. Then we got our last Wolf Ultimate. We got Woodier Extract. Whenever this hero deals basic attack damage, target hero has X% chance to receive X% less healing for a duration of X. Hand refresh does not stack. I already know what I'm giving this. It's a triple S. This is fantastic. This is the Mortal Strike ability of the game so far. It's the only instance of heal reduction that we've seen as well, and it's a passive ability. Like, this is fantastic. Everyone's gonna basic attack. I think this is a fantastic cross-class choice as well. Healing is going to be an issue for everybody, so the more you can reduce it, the better it's gonna be. Sticks and Turns says it would refer to future releases where an ability says the exhaustion cannot be removed. Aha! Take the Pirate Kraken ultimate. It states that it can't be cleansed if you use the combo. Correct. I do remember that. Unless otherwise stated. Alright, cool. So, yeah, bring a cleanse for Kvelduf Blow. Choose someone on the enemy team to no longer play the game for a while. Cleanse yourself and just enjoy. This is crazy good. Kvelduf Blow. I mean, this is borderline WoW-y. I'm sitting on the fence for it right now, but I mean, I reserve the right to come back. So coming up, we've got Dragon Slayer, which I remember this ability very hard. In the old rendition, this was the only ability I have ever given an F rating to. And before, yeah, the original F. So So before, this one was activate to rush target Dragoon, dealing damage equal to X times strength and dazing target, and then you become exhausted. You were only going to gain any kind of value out of this if there was a Dragoon on the enemy team, right? It was completely reliant on how prevalent, how dominating Dragoons were going to be. It was going to be borderline useless in PvE unless there were somehow Dragoons running around and the daze is kind of meh, and then you become exhausted yourself. There's no real trade-off here. You're only really losing value by picking this because you could have picked any other ultimate, right? That's the reason why it got the original F. You upgrade to Volunteer. I mean, I just might. But it looks like a lot of this has been changed, so I'm actually pretty excited about this. Deal damage to target enemy equal to X times basic. We got a strength % chance to daze target, to stun target, and to banish target. Holy crap, with a range of 3? Holy shit. If target enemy is a Dragoon, deal additional damage equal to basic plus strength mod, become exhausted. All right, yeah, you flipped the script, boys. Congratulations. This is freaking tastic. Holy crap. I did not expect an F to WoWie. Yeah, Scuttle. Talk about glow up. For real. This is fantastic. DoD scares the ever-living crap out of me, but there's so many different instances of control that are going into your target here. And the fact that you could daze them and stun them, and it just increases the time that they spend stunned, is incredible. This deserves a WoWie all the way through. You could choose anyone you want to daze, stun, banish, right? Yes, there's strength % chances. Yes, the cross-class pickability isn't that great. Definitely F for fantastic. But yeah, anyone who's strength-based wants this. Knights can use this, right? Knights, warriors, I mean, put it on another Dragoon. Make your Dragoon an anti-Dragoon with a Dragoon Berserker subclass. Like, this is absolutely bonkers. I love this ability. I want to use it right now. And it gives you it's now it's a tool in your toolbox rather than a hindrance of a choice, right? Whereas before it was, I really hope they've got a Dragoon on their team so I could use my ability. Now it's, man, they better hope they don't have a Dragoon on their team because I'm about to do double damage. Oh my god. Yeah, Dragoon Berserker is the Highlander for sure. Yeah, I've got one Dark Knight Zerker solid for board build. I completely agree, Eric's. Like, this is gonna be fantastic. This is gonna be amazing. I think the Dark Knight Berserker is going to be bonkers as well. I can't wait to see some of these advanced classes and how they're gonna work out, especially the strength-based ones. Because Berserker seems to be like, it is the pure just hit it harder subclass. If you want to deal DPS, congratulations on your Berserker subclass. Wow. So, all right, we're moving on. We're moving on to our second to last Boar Ultimate. We got Henbane Spores, which we did have in the last one as well. At the end of each of this hero's turns, this hero has a chance equal to X%, which is a luck %. No flat on this one. This is a straight luck roll to expel mushroom spores. Oh, thanks for the follow, Orca Slayer. What's up? Oh yeah, Longzai. I don't know if you're still in here, man. I see you followed as well. I don't know why it didn't tell me at the time, but thanks for the follow, both of yous. So we've got if spores are expelled, we've got a flat plus endurance chance to inflict a random enemy with Berserk for a duration of X. Yikes. Okay, so this is super cool. Let's just go over Berserk real quick because it is probably the scariest debuff that you can put on an enemy. This hero cannot be controlled and casts a random ability targeting a random enemy or ally target. Cannot target self. It's pure chaos of a move. I really enjoy this. The possibilities are fantastic, right? I'm not sure if this extends range on like basic attacks or anything like that, since it says attacks range. I would assume that it would only apply to abilities that were cast at range, but this has the ability to have your enemy waste abilities that potentially have really big impact later in the game on themselves or out of turn. This is fantastic. I'm gonna go ahead and give this a triple S because it's just a random chance to happen. Build luck. Build luck. Oh my god. Build luck. If you've got a thief Berserker, this is perfect to put on a thief Berserker or a pirate Berserker. You just keep making more Berserkers. It's fantastic. This is great. It's complete disruption. If abilities end up coming out with cooldowns, this can completely disrupt any kind of preconceived plans. On top of that, this helps waste your enemy's mana pool as well. Sounds like a move for a Joker. Yeah. Yeah. No, the joke. Yeah, what wasn't that Jack Nicholson? Jack Nicholson? Jack Nicholson in Michael Keaton's Batman? Wasn't he doing laughing gas on everybody? This is kind of the same deal, but instead of funny, it just hurts. Yeah, like Scarecrow. Yeah, the fear gas. Yeah, that would totally be right. Yeah, this is a fantastic ability. I like this a lot. And it's passive. My favorite things for anything to be. Let's see. We got our last ultimate in the Berserker roster here. Got Bodvar's Mushroom. This hero ate the wrong mushroom and cannot be controlled for the remainder of battle. Already yikes. This hero deals damage equal to X times basic to a random target. X% enemies, X% allies. If no allies remain, 100% enemies. I mean, come on, why put an X? This is really interesting. This is kind of like I'm just gonna it's probably like hulking out, right? So it's probably like dealing like double or triple damage. This is really good to use if you're last man standing. I'd be very scared to use this at any other point. Depending on what the percent chances are here. Again, this is high risk, high reward. It's fantastically scary. But it does have a range of 3. So this, I don't know. I really like this. Really like this. I like the range of 3. I like the random target. I like that there's a differentiation between enemies and allies. The fact that there is a percentage chance to hit allies does mean that there is, a conceivable, unfortunately, statistics is, a jerk. There is a conceivable scenario in which you only attack your own allies for multiple turns. No, but I really like this. I think it's an interesting way to play. I'm gonna give this a double S. I like this a lot, and the fact that you don't have so in the Archer, I believe it was set up. Which one is it? Relentless Volley. Yeah. Okay. So activate to put Archer in turret mode. So this is almost essentially the same thing, except instead of damage after each turn to a random enemy, right? This is the same thing to random enemies. This is like the melee damage equivalent, but still has the exact same range of what the Archer could do. I actually like this more. I don't know why. It's definitely worse because you can hit your own allies. But I don't know. I like the roulette here. I really enjoy the roulette here. Um, I think it deserves its double S. It's definitely a double-edged sword. Hopefully, you don't one shot your ally with a really scary crit. I would only really choose this or activate it rather when you've got, when you're losing. This is like an I'm losing button and you're down to 2 units and they still have all three, or this is last man standing and they still have, and this is the only way I could see this being useful. This probably be really, really, really good to use after Living Rage, where you could deal additional percent damage and you can't die no matter what they do to you. And if you've got lifesteal, thumbs up, more power to you. But this is really good. And then to finish it all up, we've got our pure Berserker capstone ability, Funeral Rites. I don't believe this has changed whatsoever. They've merely clarified, upon death, this hero may make X additional actions as if they hadn't died. They recover 0 HP from healing while in this state, which is to say that after this has been cast and has gone through, it's gonna die. You can't stop it from dying. You could probably bring it back, but you can't stop it from dying. But for all intents and purposes, this is our Wowie for sure. This remains a Wowie. Oh yeah, Scuttle. Like I was thinking the same thing. Making a turret team with the Seer's Phantasmal Secrets. I was thinking that. I was thinking the same thing. No, I really like that idea. A total hands-off approach of of playing the game. You just choose nothing but passives from your subclass. Choose every kind of passive you possibly can. You've got an archer, a berserker, and a seer. Your archer goes into relentless volley. Your berserker goes into Bodvar's mushroom, and then your seer activates which one was it? Phantasmal Secrets. You can no longer be damaged by your own berserker while you are ethereal. Oh wait, no, that's not the ethereal one. Still, really great. To pick that, is it required to choose wolf builds? No. As a matter of fact, the only thing that's required in order to pick Funeral Rites is you have to have a pure class, which means it has to be Berserker. That's all that means. So the way picking skills goes is you have to. So all of these hard lines here, where you get your 1 cost and then your 2 cost and your 3 cost, you can only choose one out of each line, right? And in order to unlock the next tier, you have to choose one. But if I choose Wolf, if I choose the Ulfheonar mushroom here, I don't have to pick another wolf ability. I can pick Bearskin next time, and then I can pick the Boar ability in the next one. I can go back to Wolf in the next one, and then I can go back to Boar again, and then I unlock the ultimates, right? I can pick any of the ultimates I want, right? But in order to pick Funeral Rites, I have to be a Berserker in order to purchase or make the choice and use my skill points on them. I believe I also have to have chosen at least one ultimate to unlock. Yeah, no problem. All right, so I don't know if everyone else has been paying attention and following along. I did secretly add a cell at the bottom of all of these that people or not. There is there's a reason, right? There's a reason why that cell exists. And it has to do with the class rating that I've added to all of the classes thus far. And it looks like Berserker which used to be a 1.5, has literally almost doubled their previous rating and has received just barely a 3.0, which is enough to qualify them for a double S rating. So Berserker is classed the same as the pirate, although the pirate has substantially higher, and the seer. All three of these so far are double S. The warrior is an S, as is the priest and the knight, and I think the archer as well. Yeah. So everyone so far has been right around the same deal. The way I make this decision is, as you can see it here, which is actually a pretty good rundown of how I do my ratings anyway. An F is basically a -3, a D is a -2, a C is a -1. Both B and A are worth 1. S is worth 2, double S is worth 3, triple S is worth 4, and a Wowie is worth 5. And then, it's just the average score. So this is the score. This is the average score of the Berserker was a double S, which fantastic, everybody. I mean, this is a huge glow up from what it was before. I could see where the differentiations were very important to make. I look forward to the Berserker coming out so much. It's definitely been one of my favorite classes to theory craft with so far because it has the crazy ramping abilities. It's got this very unique one cost that increases damage, or basic attack damage, which is all physical damage, all magical damage, ability damage, basic attack damage, and healing. All right. Not only does it have this very unique version where HP is the variable here, but it has a constant stacking for both taking and dishing out damage. It's got a don't die ability, right? And it sets your HP. It sets your HP rather than just giving you a invulnerable buff. It sets your HP to 0, which gives you more options for utilizing things like your Berserker mushroom for your X% of missing HP. It gives you the option for activating things like clutch. It gives you just a ton of options. And this is something like we did see a little bit of in the previous rendition, but we really get to see the synergy in the way that it builds upon itself in the long. The bear turned into less of a tank build and more of a bruiser, which is someone who just, they can take hits, but they could also dish them out. Overall, I am ecstatic about this re-release. I feel really good about this class again. This is by far, this is my favorite ability still. Funeral Rites is just fantastic, and I plan on making teams around this. But I mean, we got more Wowies out here, right? Dragon Slayer had the biggest glow up we've ever seen. The original F is now a Wowie. And we've got Living Rage again. Another one of my favorite abilities, set your HP to 1. It's fantastic. But that's all I've got for tonight. This has been the Berserker Skill Codex. I hope to see you guys next week for the next release. I've got my fingers crossed for Thief. I feel like we're not going to be getting that, though. I think we're going to be seeing Wizard instead, because they've been pretty much showcasing with these releases what everyone's done. This has been the only double up, right? So we've had Archer, which was ranged physical damage. We've got Knight, which was our first tank role. Priest, which was showcasing healing. Warrior, which was showcasing melee physical DPS. Then we had our Seer, which was our first spellcaster, but mainly it was just a hyper support, which is insane class all on its own. Then we had the utility DPS, which is just it's like a hybrid ranged and melee physical DPS with all kinds of crazy luck utility. It was super cool. And the only double up we've seen so far with the warrior has been melee physical DPS. I don't blame them at all for doing a release of Berserker this week. I feel that this is pretty inevitable. Having Super Bowl Sunday, uh, just the day before. But I think this is a fine rendition. I'm glad they got this out of the way, so we weren't recrafting with the outdated Berserker information for too long. Um, but that being said, I still think they're going on this down this road of showcasing the differences in mechanically how the game works. So my prediction for next week is going to be Wizard, specifically so they could showcase a pure magic DPS class, which is probably going to have some utility attached to it. But until then, I hope you all have a great night, and I'll see you next week. Have a good one, everybody.